All right. Hey, welcome everyone to the first edition of Are You Next? I'm happy to have Mr. Nate Ford with me, a simple guy, but also a deep passion for helping out his community. And that's why I would love to have him as the first guest here. We will get into his background a little bit more. But first off, Nate, thank you so much for coming on, man. It's great to have you.
Oh man, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Excellent, excellent. All right. A little background. I know Nate from my time when I lived in San Francisco. I'm from the Bay Area originally, currently living down South America in Chile. But I know Nate from his work with the Boys and Girls Club in San Francisco. We'll get into that and what he has been up to, what he has done, how many years he's been in the community service. And so that way, we can get a little background on our relationship, man. I'm really excited to have you on, Nate, because I know we've been trying to get a hold of each other for a while. I've been watching you from afar, keeping tabs on what you're up to, man. But the biggest thing, Nate, is I've watched how many boys and girls that you have positively affected, and that to me is something that I love not only to see, but I love to be around in my life. So I wanted to talk about your how you became a mentor, how you became a coach, a little bit about your background, and talk about maybe some stories or some interests that you have currently going on in your life.
Cool, cool. No, I again this falling into the youth field was almost by accident. I was raised in Boys and Girls Club, so I
Mm.
started going to Boys and Girls Club when I was 6 years old. Um, then I went through all through the school years. So happened when I was in my senior year, the gym director at Boys and Girls Club left, and it was going into the summertime, and then Les Anderson, who was the executive director, he asked me, could I run the gym for the summertime? This is this was 1990 there, and I
Oh
said,
yeah,
yeah, for the summertime, sure. I'm not doing that. Might as well get paid. This is a great segue.
sure, man. Get to
I
hang
did
out in the
some,
gym and get paid.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. I did some summer work as a youngster. Working. Summer jobs. I was always a teen staff from 15 years old all the way up, and then I got 18. Les asked me to run a gym for the summertime. Um, Lo and behold, I didn't know I would be there for 32 years running the gym after that.
Wow, man. Whew.
Yeah, so that was it was definitely an experience working with Boys and Girls Club, because Boys and Girls Club gave me so much of my first in life, my first plane ride, my first train ride, my first trip out the country. So
Wow.
I've always, as I got older, I always wanted to give back in some type of form in that way that was given to me. So it was opportunities that otherwise I would not ever had without Boys and Girls Club and the opportunities that they presented for me. So for 32 years um, I ran the athletics in some capacity for Boys and Girls Club. Um, 2005, I was promoted to the citywide sports athletic director, where
Hmm.
then I was in charge for running all the sports for Boys and Girls Clubs in San Francisco. So
Wow.
so I was tasked with that thing. But in the midst of that, one of the first projects I ran, in 1990, I got in conjunction with the NBA, was a junior NBA Pee Wee League, and it was a basketball league that started off with four teams, and then by late 90s, early 2000, we got up to 32 teams, and then it got up to like
Whoa.
46 teams. So out of that, I also had a bunch of Well, I had a core group of like 8 sixth graders around in 1990, and they were pretty good from the league. And I wanted to get them more competition. And we started we started playing Park and Rec, PAL League, playing tournaments and things like that. And we were just going in as boys club team. So then, in 1990, of course, if you guys remember the college basketball years, that was UNLV, the Running Rebels.
Oh,
That,
the running rebel, Stacey
yeah,
Ogman,
that's
Larry
right.
Johnson.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So we
yeah.
named our team the Rebels. That
Ah,
team,
that's where it
that team
comes
from there. So
from. That's
that's
where it
where
comes
that
from.
that's where it came from. From
Nice.
there, 1990, we started off that one team. We saw them go all the way through. Of course, we added, I think in the height of the Rebels in early 2000, we got up to like 24 traveling teams,
Wow,
and
man. And you were
yeah,
and you managed all these,
I oversee
oversaw
all
that,
those.
right?
Yeah, I
Wow,
oversaw
man.
all those
That's a
teams.
that's a lot of work, a lot of logistics, man. Most definitely.
Yeah, and we added the community service component, the education component, and parent participation and things like that, and that went into a real powerhouse of
Wow.
um,
Tell me more about that element, because that, I think, is a lot is missing in today's youth sports, like I say a travel ball or anything like that. You said added scholastic element, parent participation element. Tell us a little bit more about that.
so that was me more thinking that if we were going to start traveling, things like that, we had to start applying for different grants and funds
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
soliciting donations. People are just not going to fund the local basketball team. I mean, let's
Right.
just be real. You got to have something that catches people's eyes. So if we came up with the education component where we had the academic coaching program where our kids were tracked in school when they were really,
Yes.
had to do an hour of study hall before practice. And then when we're on the road, we have the actual study hall. We bring the academic coaches with us. That was something enticing to sponsors and things like that. So not not saying in a negative way, but it was a way to kind of garner the attention towards the basketball piece of it. But
Hmm.
it was also a way to get our kids serious about school if they wanted to take their talents, whatever it was in basketball at that time, to the next level. And by adding those pieces through the academic coaching program, the educational piece also included like SAT prep work. Back then, it was SATs and how
Yes.
to prepare kids for the HSPT, which was the high school placement test, to getting kids into private high schools and getting them, set up for success. I thought all that was you know a great addition to the program and a way to take ourselves to the next level. We had the parent participation was definitely a must. I couldn't do all this by myself, so I had to
Sure.
have parents step up to the plate. So parents were required to put in 20 hours of community service with the team over the course of the season.
Wow,
Whether
man. Imagine that, man. Imagine that. Having parents participate in their child's lives in a positive way, not just on the sidelines cheering them on, actually participating and putting in community work for the team. That's a great
right,
concept, man. Yeah.
Right. And it was whether it's not only just running the scoreboard or snack bar, but it was coming in during the week to help out with tutoring,
Mm.
gathering, guest speakers. We would often get professionals to come in to talk about their professional background and talk to the players to inspire them, because that ball does stop bouncing one day. So
Yes.
getting those kids prepared for, to think of life after that ball stopped bouncing. So parents were tasked to do all those type of different things, set up reservations on the road for hotels and things like that. So I was very lucky coming up in those early days and up into the 2000s to kind of really get that help to springboard the Rebels into, what they are today.
Wow. Wow, man. Hey, we are here with Nate Ford talking about his Rebels back in the day, man, a community advocate, a mentor, and a man that has affected so many people positively. And that's, one of the reasons we have him here on Are You Next? What's next for Nate Ford?
Well, I recently, I let go of the Rebels like 4 years ago. I had
Okay.
a grandson and things like that, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
and I really wanted to see, what was out there for me. So I turned it over to a great person, Faraji Abram. He's running a program. The program is still going. It's in year 36 now. Um,
Wow. You
they
should be
are,
very proud of that, man.
yeah,
Most
yeah.
definitely.
They're still going. I watch them from afar because I don't. It's hard replacing anything, especially somebody's been there for 30 years running the
Hmm.
program. And when I gave the program to them, I want them to take it and they run with it. They do what they do. I didn't never want them to have to look to me for doing this or do this. This is your show. You do that. If I want to do that, I would have stayed. You know what I'm saying? So
Right, right, right,
they're
right.
running,
Yeah.
they're doing their own thing. What I'm doing now, I've gotten more into the juvenile justice part
Mm.
of things. I'm doing a lot of work up at our juvenile hall in San Francisco.
Oh
Um,
man, good on you, man.
I'm
Really
I'm
cool.
I'm 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 doing a lot of mentoring and things like that. Um, and just enjoying life. I got a ton of players that's in college playing college ball. A lot of players that's out there that's making an impact. Playing on great teams. My stepson Jerry Mixon, he plays for University of Oregon Ducks football. He's a
Wow.
starter. He's going into his senior year. So just getting out and just enjoying, man. I never knew, for 30 some years, I often worked on Saturdays, so I never had a Saturday off. And so now I'm just enjoying life, man. And enjoying it,
Oh yeah, man. It's a whole new
and
world, isn't it?
yeah, I get out to see other things and other programs. But I have passions now of finding resources for those kids who otherwise would not have had it to get them exposure, whether it's football, baseball, volleyball, basketball, but getting them the means to attend camps and getting footage and getting their films out and things like that. That stuff costs a lot of money.
It
And
sure does.
yeah, and parents in underserviced community just don't have it. And what I try to do is offset some of them costs by sending kids to those different camps to be exposed and
So do you
and
send
get
them to you like from your personal fund, or do you have like a
no.
like a
I have a separate. I got a group of private funders who's always contributing and
great?
has the same vision that I do,
Uh-huh.
like I do. And again, this is a cost that is not on parents' radar. They kind of, some parents dig themselves in a hole trying to fund, these
Ooh,
camps
man. It
these
is
camps
expensive.
yeah. So if I can be that olive branch just to help out a little bit, that's all.
Nate,
I'd like to do.
that's fantastic, man. That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that is a huge reason why that a lot of kids don't get exposed, right? They don't get seen. They have problems, getting a foot in the door per se.
Right.
And you and I are a lot aligned like that, man. And a way of getting kids exposure. That's one of the reasons why I started my company and started my platform, is so that's easy exposure for kids to get worldwide exposure through the newest technology, so that these kids can get a foot in the door, can get a phone call or an email, or
Right.
we use a lot of social media contacts so that the kids
Right.
can get contacted right away, instead of going through like a team or like a gated place, like a perfect game or a huddle or something of that nature, where you have to go through a lot of red tape to get a hold of the kid.
Correct.
In my estimation, that's what I see out there in the world. is a lot of gated platforms that cost a lot of money, like we talked about. Okay, Perfect Game costs a lot of money to go to these events, and so what you're doing to get these kids some exposure is phenomenal, and how you set it up. So I applaud you very much on that, man. And all of those years of community service. I mean, do you have like a favorite story, like one kid maybe you mentored, or like a young athlete, man, that you would like to kind of talk about, man? I'd love to hear that. Something.
Yeah, I mean, we have so many that's like I mentioned Jerry that's over playing Oregon. You know, there's kids all over the country that we have playing, but there's one kid that he did not make it, but it really stands out to me. When I first got my job at Boys and Girls Club, it was and you know, it was mainly just keeping kids in line. And during the 90s, if you do your research, in 1990, San Francisco was very heavy on the drive-by shootings or crack trade and things like that. It was one Valentine's Day, I had a kid, we were on our way back from a game. I had to stop and get a gift from my girlfriend then. And he lived in San Francisco. He was like 14 years old then. So we stopped at the old Saramonte Mall, and and the kid lived in San Francisco all his life, and lo and behold, he had never been to Saramonte in his life, and he's like, "Coach, where is this? What is this?" I said, "This is called a mall, Saramonte Mall," and he never went there. So from that point on, that struck for me to give, kids like him, Demetrius, a chance to kind of get out and see things. To this day, we keep in touch. He's now working for the city of San Francisco in the Park and Recs department. He's giving back to kids the way, I gave him those opportunities. But that story, and he tells people that story all the time, and I tell people that story all the time. And these kids now, Ceremony, you never, man. I said, little 8-year-old kids ragging on him and all that stuff. But he lived in a housing complex, and his family life wasn't the greatest, but he always found me to latch on, and I was able to give him that experience. So I'm just glad. Yeah, I'm just glad to see him grown up to be a success. He didn't make it in sports, but he made it to be a successful young man, and he's giving back to the community.
Man, what is more important, right? I mean, that right there is the most important thing that you exposed him to something different, and you gave him a new avenue in life. That's all we want to do as coaches, right? That's all we want to do as mentors, is to show someone another way to do things, because I think that's extremely important. I love to hear that, man. And Demetrius, man, if you ever watch this, man, maybe you can send it on off to him, man.
Yes, I will.
Man, that you found Nate right there, and what you're doing, Demetrius, in the world, on top of paying it forward, is what this life is all about to me, man. It's all about paying it forward. And
it's my dog behind me.
Hey, that's right on. That's real
Bella.
Right
that's Bella.
That's right there. How you doing, pup?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, we're with Nate Ford out of San Francisco here on Are You Next, and Coach Chad Masippo here. Having our first episode, man, having a great conversation about mentorship, affecting lives positively, and also giving back in the community, along with paying it forward once you do receive it. I have my stories when I was a kid. Coaches in the neighborhood keep me on the straight path, or at the same time, show me different options on how to live life and what you want to accomplish. And I think that you've given that to so many youths. I go through your LinkedIn page, I'm like, wow, this guy has affected so many people. I see you, highlighting certain aspects. I think the name Mixon sounds familiar to me. Running back for the Bengals. No,
that's his cousin. That's his first cousin.
Joe Mixon. Yeah,
that's right.
Right on. I think he's from the Antioch area, if I remember.
Yeah, Joe grew up in San Francisco though, but
maybe
moved out to Antioch later.
So,
in his latest year. Yeah, he went to Freedom High in Oakley. Oakley.
Oakley. Okay, right.
All right.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right, Mixon. Yeah, when you said Mixon, I said, man, that's a name around the area for sure,
Yeah.
man.
Right.
So that's
Right.
fantastic. All right, man. So, yeah. So, hey, so Nate, when you're speaking about like you started the Rebels, you took over a gym from a gentleman, and next thing you know, man, you make it a career, right? So all these experiences you've had, all these things. What do you see in today's youth sports that's missing from when, say 10, 20 years ago, in the youth sports industry? Because, that's something that we are definitely focused on. Like, what do you see in today's youth sports world that might be lacking a little bit?
I see two things. One, I see the teaching level. Um, Back then was the main focus,
Mm.
teaching the game and making sure kids are fundamentally sound. I think versus today where you just pop on a video on YouTube and and you try to do some things that
Mm.
you don't even work on, I mean, things that you try to do in the games, it just doesn't translate. So I think the emphasis on teaching has gone out the window. There are some great teachers that's still around, but these kids these days don't want to go to those type of teachers because they're going to give you the fundamentals to make you the player that you need to be instead of the player that YouTube or
Uh,
Instagram wants you to
they want the
see.
instant satisfaction of
There
doing it
you
pro,
go.
per se.
Right, exactly. And secondly, I think the fun of the game has gone out the window.
Oh man,
You
we
s-
need to
you
talk
s-
about that. You just hit it
yeah,
on the head. Tell me
you
more about
see,
that.
like I mentioned before, we had family involvements in a very positive way back
Hmm.
then, which made the game fun for the family, for the whole family. Now you turn on you go these days, you're seeing fights at the games.
Ooh, I know.
You seeing parents confronting the coach about different. That would have never happened in the '90s when a parent would never had approached me about their kid playing and want to fight
No.
the coach after the game. And it's
Oh,
just so many horror stories. It makes me sick to look at the game.
yep.
And that can't be fun for the kids. That cannot be
That's
fun
embarrassing
for
for
the
the
kid.
kids. Don't.
Exactly.
I mean, wouldn't that be embarrassing for the kid? I mean, it's like, oh my God, look at my dad, look at my mom, right?
And yeah, and I can just imagine those car rides going home these days. It takes the fun out the game.
Hmm.
The young,
Hmm.
yeah, back then, you have a bad game and we chalk it up and we move on to the next day or two for practice. But we work on fundamentals. We get back going. We get back at it. Um, those two things are just lost. There's
Yes.
lost. They're gone. They're lost. Again, not saying that. I mean, there are that small percentage that still go back to the old school way, but we need to go back to the. We need to have less games and more practices to perfect our game, our structure.
Yeah.
I've been doing some work with USA Basketball, um, and just those meetings been strictly based on how they're doing over in Europe. They practice probably 10 times a week, only play one game a week, you know?
And
And
you can
out
see it in
here,
their games, can't you?
right. And out here we play 10 games a week and barely have a half a practice a week. You know what I'm
Man,
saying?
I know, man. It's and you laugh about it, but it is very a serious nature, and I think that's why we're seeing like a decline in we've seen a decline in fundamentals in fun, because it's such a competition every game, right? And these kids play so many games. How can they distinguish between one tournament and another? I
Right.
mean, if you're not prepping for a tournament and it's a big deal, if you're just playing one tournament one weekend, now another tournament another weekend, and not practicing in the middle enough, you're not going to get better. That's the problem. That's what I see is like I watch all these games, like even down here in South America and in Chile. We have our local little league, man, which I've helped support and get going. And I go to these games, and I'm not coaching there, but I'm watching, and I go, wow, the fundamentals are not there. They're
Right.
just not. They're
No.
not, and it's too many games. Games, and it's money, man. It's
Right.
money that
No.
these tournament directors put on. The coaches, they get paid. And you mentioned earlier there's not enough teaching, and I think that's a direct result of the explosion of teams. There just can't be enough good teachers, right? Because there's so many teams. But I think the aspect of salary and money for these coaches, they see that, hey, I can make $3,000 a weekend, right? Coaching 10 games on these travel ball teams. Where am I going to teach fundamentals when I got 10 games to coach, man?
Right, because it's just not the it thing to do. And
Right.
it's sad. I was in just a quick note on that. I was thinking the other night, I was watching the NBA, the Eastern and Western Conference game.
Yep.
I don't know if they're in the next 15 years will we have an American win the MVP award. All our
Ooh.
MVPs will come from people from out of the states. Look
Mm-hmm.
at Shea, look at Wimby, look at Jokic.
Yep.
When will the USA? Whoa, Anthony Edwards? Maybe, I don't know, but
Maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm going back to the fundamentals. Those guys, they reverse. They come from overseas. They come from where they preach practice, then maybe a game, and then practice more. So I think we need to get back to developing that habit of being that culture to where we can get back to letting kids know that practice is cool. I mean, I've seen parents just blow off practice. I saw a guy, one of my former players, he was at the park waiting for his soccer team. I'm like, where the team at? Practice supposed to start at 5 o'clock. He only has 2 players there. Oh, the mom called me. Johnny has this. Johnny
Yep.
has that. This and that. But if there was a game that day, Johnny would be right there.
No doubt about it. He might even be early.
There we go. So, it is
Yeah, it's
mind-boggling.
backwards.
Yes, definitely.
It's backwards, and it shows in the games. Most fundamentals I see on any games, even in the pros now, because the youth watch the pros, right? And they mimic, right? And so you look at the pros in any sport, the fundamentals are lacking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm watching Major League Baseball players overthrow the cutoff man every
Every
night.
time. Oh, God,
It just blows me away, man. I'm like, oh my God. My coaches would kill me.
Man, you teach the kid to go out and have your hands up for the cutoff.
Be like, hey, right here, give him a good target. Get him on the glove side, tilt your body, get ready to throw. I don't see any of that, man.
Wow.
I don't see any of that.
Wow.
And it's and it shows in the professionals and the youth. Unfortunately, mimic that. So that's where we're at. I do agree with you, though, that I feel on the flip side of that, I feel like, in every era, man, we have this, we have the ups and the downs, man, and the fundamentals get lacked. And then, but I think I'm hoping that it's starting to turn a little bit more, that people are understanding, hey, you know what, we're not developing kids. And the problem in the U.S. and American players is that they are so, and first of all, it costs a lot of money to play. So you shorten the pool of talent.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You shrink the pool of talent when you have pay to play, because there's a lot of kids, as we know, in underserved communities, middle class communities, that don't get an opportunity to play.
Absolutely.
And develop. And so that's where I think that the Americas can get better about that. And I'm hoping that there has to be a financial incentive to do so, though, Nate. Like there has to be a financial incentive to get those kids to play, and I think it's starting. You're seeing more nonprofits, you're seeing more outreach, but the kids are not hitting the pros as of yet from that, and I think it's going to take a little while.
Yeah, it's a situation that's, I think it has been battling like communities that I work with for years to kind of find that, first of all, when you invest in kids sports and you find that quality coach, it's going to come with a cost.
Mm,
And that's where that's where you know parents was like, "Hey, man, we need to eat tonight. I can't pay for
true.
that," or we need
Hmm.
groceries, or I need bus fare, or things like that. And so that's the sports stuff, takes a back seat. I mentioned earlier how, again, when you're going out for funding, people don't see sports as the avenue where they should invest their dollars to. So
Mm,
there has to be something that you have to combine with it, whether it's an academic component, whether it's a service to community component, or something like that, to make it enhancing to a donor
right.
to say, hey, it's not just going to Johnny to play basketball, but it's also helping him, helping Johnny to shape into a well-rounded individual by giving him the academics, by giving him the community service, by giving him the life skills portions and things
Wow.
like that to make that person, a well-rounded individual. I've always said that, I'm always, my goal is to make sure that these young people are ready to what this world has to offer when they get of age, whether it's, on the court or off the court. Again, I focus a lot on off the court because that ball will stop bouncing. And, I mentioned it before. And what do
Yep.
you do then? So I really, if a kid gets a scholarship or happens to go play professionally, hey, we're lucky, we're happy to have it. But I think tend to focus more on kids' development as a human being, as a family man, as he's getting older or as she's
Hmm.
getting older, to kind of adjust themselves into the climate of the world when they're able to, go off on their own. So I think the investment has to be catchy for, it to funnel down to communities that I serve. And it also has to be somewhat of a, result driven and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to have to change with the times. Okay, so that's
Absolutely.
and whoever can figure that out is going to do really well.
Yes.
And I mean really well, So,
Yes. Yes.
man, this is great, man. We got Nate Ford on here out of San Francisco, man, talking youth sports here with me on Are You Next? We're having a great conversation, man. And as it continues, I have Nate is talking about, off the court, on the court, developing youngsters to be adults. Something that we don't see a lot at least we don't see in the headlines today in the youth sports world. What happens to these kids now, Nate? I mean, maybe you've seen it. What happens to these kids when they don't get the development, when they don't get, the mentorship or the life skills that you spoke about? What happens to them now?
I think they fall off in on the grade suffering. They stop going to school. There's the drug aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of things that they fall off into, and that's part of my work now with kids up in juvenile hall to kind of, okay, kids make mistakes, but let's try to make sure when they get back out and out here they don't make those same mistakes again. But
Wow.
I think when kids don't have those opportunities, they find themselves up where I'm, doing work at now in juvenile
Yes.
hall,
Right.
or I've had thousands of players that come through my program, but I've also lost over 100 and something kids
Yeah. Yeah.
to violence and just things like that, just because they didn't have that, that guidance and that mentorship, and they got disinterested in the sport, or the parents couldn't afford to pay for the sport, so they started hanging out and
Hanging
getting
out in the
themselves,
wrong areas, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
getting
Mm-hmm.
themselves into mischief. And I think those are the few that I really worry about, the kids that who don't come anymore.
Yeah.
and who
Yeah.
don't
I
show
can
up to
imagine.
games and practice, and you wonder where they are and how they're doing. And oftentimes those stories are not good.
Yeah. 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 No, I mean, well said, Nate, and it's just a fact of life that once you get off that wrong path, and it's hard to get back on those tracks, man. You have such a window right there in your teens, right? Low teens to 18, 19, 20, even to get yourself into a good life, some good life choices, and it does take a good teacher. What I found out about being a coach, man, is like it's way more than just being there for the kids and opening up the practice and showing them some fundamentals. Man, you become a father to them. Um, oh, we lost Nate. Where'd he go? Oh man. Well, hopefully we get Nate back here real soon. You're talking to Coach Chad. Are you next? Live on LinkedIn right now. Live on my YouTube channel, Coach Chad Live, along with the Are You Next channel. We've been talking to Nate Ford out of San Francisco about how he is affecting people's lives positively, and how many people he has and continues to work with, so that he can positively affect the next generation. And I think we got Nate back on here. I
Yep,
believe we got Nate back on here. There he is. All right, fantastic.
about
All
that.
right,
I
hey,
don't
we
know
missed
what
you for a
happened.
second, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all right. That's all right, man. It's 2026, man. We can get you on rack real quick.
That's right.
So I was just saying how it's been a pleasure. How it is a pleasure having you, and how you're now not only mentoring kids from in the past, but mentoring kids in the juvenile system. Helping them continue to make good life choices. Let me ask you something here. I'm going to pivot a little bit to you. What do you think about what I've seen and what I see in youth sports? How much is it that sometimes the parents want their children to go farther than maybe the children
Yeah.
themselves want to go?
And I get this question a lot. I don't think parents really realize that that's what they're doing. I think
Mm-hmm.
the pressures of the rankings and the internet and Instagrams
Oof.
and that prestige has just become a norm. And
Yeah.
there are parents who want their kids to be how they used to be or how they perceive they want them to be.
Yes.
But I will give a
Right.
lot of parents the benefit of the doubt that half the time, half of these parents don't even know that what they're doing.
They're just going
They're
along with what everyone else is doing, right?
That's all. They're just
Yeah.
following suit, man. That's
Yes.
all. Yeah.
Yeah, and they got to bring a big wallet. They got to
Yeah.
bring a big checkbook when they're doing it. Yeah, that's what I see as well. I think you're right in a way that a lot of parents, I don't want to say are oblivious, but they are following what everyone else is doing, and they feel a lot of peer pressure. Okay, I know this. My sister has two girls. My nieces play softball and volleyball in California, and going through like I watched her I say, hey, you know what? Let's go on vacation for the week. And my
Right.
your niece has a tournament in Reno, and I'm like,
Right.
you can't miss that tournament. Like
Right.
that's she's 16, man. I'm like, come on, man. This is a vacation down San Diego or something of that nature, right? And
Right.
it's like,
Right.
no, we've already paid for it, and she doesn't want to leave her friends. That's a
Right.
big one. That's a big
Yeah.
one. So, what would you say to a parent that supposedly doesn't want to miss out on anything, but what are they really missing out on, Nate?
I think what parents is really are missing out on is the joy and fun of the game. I
Yes.
think, and they're depriving their child the opportunity to enjoy the game, like it's supposed to be like it's supposed to be enjoyed. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think parents miss out on seeing signs of their child going through certain things. I think
Such
I think
as?
but when kids really don't want to play the sport, the
Yeah.
parents forcing their kids out there, how the kids are really not having fun when you're determined or set on having your kid to be the next this or that, you miss out on those little signs that tell tell mom or dad, I really don't want to do this. I just maybe want to just have play the sport for fun and
I want to be a
enjoy
kid. I
right,
want to be a
enjoy
kid, man.
enjoy time with my friend. That's one of the reasons why I encourage kids to play all sports.
There you
Don't
go.
just play
Boom.
don't just
Yes.
play basketball.
No.
You know,
No. No. No.
the and fun fact, the I almost have more kids got football scholarships from Rebels basketball than basketball itself. You know what I'm saying? Just
Wow.
because they play multiple sports. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
And
You would use different muscles, use your different
right,
brain pathways, man. You use different coordination, man. Your athleticism grows. Yeah.
right. And I think again, but parents miss out on signs that their kid is not having fun because they're just so emotionally charged in the moment in what their kids are doing. And that can often lead to different, problems, withdrawals and behavioral problems in school, and how parents and kids get into arguments, how, just how it can mess up the whole household dynamic just because parents are missing those signs because they are so in tune into their child being so great on the sports field.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we know the percentages of being, we know the percentages of you making it. Oh yeah, man, that's like, is there daylight in there? I mean, that's like really, really slow. So I always preach to these kids, enjoy it. Okay, enjoy your time. Go and have fun with your friend. Play different sports. I have a community down here that all different nationalities, and we have fun, man. I call it Eagles.fun. Okay, and these kids, they can't wait to show up because they don't know what's going to happen next day, right? Because we're always changing our practice schedule and routines and all that kind of stuff and having fun with it. Because I think at these ages, very young, from 8 to 15 to 18, you need like options, man. You need
Right.
options.
No,
Because I remember when I was that young, man, I didn't know. I loved playing baseball, but I played football, basketball, soccer. I played all kinds of different stuff, man. And it was cool because we had different seasons. There's another thing, Nate. I think that also the parents get locked into these seasons, right, with like travel ball, but they never seem to end. These seasons never seem to end. I mean, they go from one, they stop and they go, okay, and then they take a couple weeks off and then they start so-called fall ball, right? And I'm
Spring
watching
ball,
these kids,
summer ball,
14 years
winter.
old, 14 years old, playing year round, throwing as hard as they can in November. And I'm going, you are going to burn your elbow right off, man. So,
Right.
I mean, what would you say to a young athlete coming up, man? Okay,
Well,
you got a 15-year-old kid who's very, very good at loves the game. What would you say to that athlete, man?
I would tell the athlete to go enjoy themselves. I would tell the athlete to really look at themselves in the mirror and do as much as they can as a teenager because you only be a teenager once. Um, you
Great.
know, I had to make a tough decision in which when I was back coaching, I had to stop scheduling around prom time because I felt sorry for kids missing their proms and things.
Yes.
And I went to the prom, so I know what that mean and what that day was like. So I never ever got upset with a kid because he wanted to go to the prom and skip the tournament that weekend. I just stopped scheduling
Good
those
on you.
those
Yes. Yep.
weeks during prom season just so kids wouldn't have to make those choices. But I would just tell kids to just have fun. I think to let also important to them, let their parents know how they're feeling, and
True. Yes.
and need someone's help. Reach out to someone, a trusted person that you trusted. Have that conversation with your parents. Most kids are scared to have those type of conversations with their parents to
Because they
say
feel like they might disappoint them, right? Because they spend a lot of money on these tournaments. I don't know.
exactly. So those are things that what I try to preach, especially now with the Nate's place. That's a non-competitive environment. and just
Mm.
puts the focus back on having fun. We have these basketball games and soccer games. We don't keep score. We keep the time,
Ah,
but we don't
awesome.
score. So I tell parents, if you're looking to see if you're how many points your son scored or daughter scored or who's going to be MVP, you won't get it in this league. This league is about having fun,
Oh, man, I love it.
fun
I love
only.
it, man.
And
Yes.
parents want to go up there and they go in the stand. I say you can keep score in your head if you want to, but it won't show on the scoreboard ever. Um, in my league, and we try to emphasize that to these young kids. Nate's Place works with kids only 11 and under. I think that's the age group to kind of really
Mm-hmm.
feel that having fun. I think you know when it's 12 and 13, 14, it's starting to get a little late now to try to
To,
turn
to, to, to give that as a
right.
base. Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I use Nate Place as a we got a league we start as young as 4 years old. We have a basketball, the rims come down to like 7 feet.
Oh, yeah.
Kids are having fun. I mean, they may run with the ball from one end to the other. But it's just fun. And it's a great way to get families out laughing with after a long week on Saturday mornings, get out and just enjoy the kid on the soccer field or, on the basketball court, on the volleyball court, and just have some fun. But we're not keeping score. We're going to emphasize fundamentals. We're going to emphasize fun. And that's what Nate's Place is all about.
Man, I love it. I love it. And how's your participation, man? How many people you get out
Well,
there?
so we started 3 years ago. We started with 40 kids. This past season, we're up to 200 kids playing. So
That's what I'm talking about.
yeah,
Yes,
it's
sir.
growing. It's growing on people. I think people see the value in having fun. They see how much money they save rather than going into all these traveling leagues that you know. They
Traveling
got
T-ball, man.
they got AA. I didn't know that they have traveling basketball for 6 years old.
Oh no, man,
They
that's
put
ridiculous.
a
That's
6-year old
ridiculous.
all-star team to go to Florida to
No,
go play.
no. That's
Go
for the parents. That's for the parents.
I'm like, what the heck is this? So I I think the parents in the junior NBA league for the Nate's Place, I think they see what not only is saving money, but they're getting a lot of bang for their bucks. Their kids are learning and they're having fun.
Ah, man. Love it, man. Get over to Nate's Place, man. I tell you, man, you're gonna have some fun. You're gonna develop. You're gonna have a good time, a sense of community, right? That is a big deal, man. And we have an Eagles community here that I've started. We now have a Chilean coach and a Venezuelan coach, and we get kids on Saturday morning, just like you're talking about. So funny that you're talking about this because we have the same thing here, and the kids just have fun. We play a version of baseball that's, we don't keep score. They run around the bases. It's a softer ball. It's called speed ball. And they just, and the parents come out, they put out a blanket and they just watch their kids run around. I keep them going all the time. And that's essentially what you're doing there, Nate. And giving someone an alternative to this craziness I see out in the travel ball and elite sports world. Not every athlete is elite. Okay, let's be serious, and we know that. And so I think we need to come back to that and ground these kids and the parents and just enjoy life. And especially these days, man, who doesn't want to enjoy life now, right? I mean, come on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, hey, Nate, this has been a great conversation, man. I would love to talk to you again very soon about how Nate's Place is going, what you're up to. You always got a mic here on Are You Next, man. You're a good man. I knew it when I've been following you and running across you many years ago when I was living in San Francisco. And you are continuing to positively affect people and to bring something to their lives and to the people that they affect. And I want to commend you on that. But also, man, it's great to have you on Are You Next. It's great for you to be the first person on our live conversation connected to my platform. And it's the perfect man for it, to tell you, because your values align with why I even started started this, for connectivity at a very small price, so these kids can get exposure away from all these other things that we've been talking about today.
Right. No, thank you. And you know, if anybody wants to follow our Instagram, it's at Nate's Place 2025. You
Good
know,
deal.
you can see all the cool things we're doing, and that's where I am in my life, just to make sure that kids are learning the game and having fun, and just bringing the wholesome family life back together, and you know, and just have a safe place to just go and release yourself on Saturday. So happy to be here. Glad I was able to get this conversation going.
Man, absolutely, man. It just made my day, man. I mean, it's a great conversation, man. Great talking to you about you know, like I said, man, being a positive force in the youth sports community, man. So, hey, again, thank you so much, Nate. Thank you for being a guest on Are You Next? And we will be talking again very soon
Yeah.
in the future, man.
Yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Excellent. Right back at you, Nate. You take care of yourself, and we'll see you down the road, my man.
All right.
All right. All right. Wow, what a great conversation with Nate on here on Are You Next, man? Coach Chad, I hope you enjoyed. And I could talk to that guy for hours. I know they say that a lot, but you know, me and him are aligned very much into giving an option in this crazy sports world that we live in. So, hey, thank you for listening. I hope all is doing well out there. This is Coach Chad. You can see me. You can catch me on LinkedIn on Chad Masippo, and then also on the YouTube channel Coach Chad Live. Hey, again, thank you so much for following us. Thank you so much for listening. The recording will be available. Nate has a lot of great things to say about the youth sports industry and what you can do and how you can contribute in your community. For now, we say